Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
Are you interested in automatically collecting investor commitments and processing distributions? InvestNext offers these features and more, giving you the opportunity to manage your entire portfolio on one institution-grade platform. At LifeBridge Capital, prior to partnering with InvestNext, our team struggled to provide visibility for our investors. We needed the ability to share data on our projects, process payments, and view performance all in one place. Since adopting InvestNext, my team has the tools they need to effectively manage the entire life cycle of each syndication. From capital raising and waterfall calculations to distribution payouts and securely delivering K1s, we have everything we need in one platform. These features give our investors access to all their data in one place. We no longer are wasting time fielding basic investor inquiries about their investment performance. They're able to log in, see all of their documents, view their capital accounts, as well as invest in any current offerings, all from their mobile or desktop browser. If you want to learn more, book a demo at investnext.com and enter the promo code Whitney for 15% off your first 3 months. This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is Sean O'Toole. Thanks for being on the show, Sean.
Hi, Whitney. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, after a successful technology career in Silicon Valley, Sean purchased and flipped over 150 residential and commercial properties. He exited the market in 2006, right before the credit bubble burst. He used his real estate experience and his tech savvy to start Foreclosure Radar in 2007. He then pivoted from foreclosures to the general real estate market with a launch of PropertyRadar in 2013. Sean, welcome to the show. It's so interesting. I like just reading your bio and reading some other things about you. You're really a data expert, right? I mean, you know where to find the data. You know how to compile it together. You're an expert in tech or just using technology in something that most of us in this business, whether we like it or not, we need to be data experts, right? We need to know at least where to find the data so we know where to invest, what properties to buy. I mean, all the way down to the block or corner of the street, right? That we're looking to purchase something on, or many other things that affect those deals. But welcome to the show. Why don't you give us a little more about just this, what you did in tech a little bit, and then let's talk about how you exited in 2006 and why, and then let's move forward.
All right. Well, lots there. I had I was part of 3 startups in tech. We launched the first streaming video technology at a company called Zing. So first to broadcast the Grammys and over the internet, and a number of other kind of major milestones there. That company sold to Real Networks. Should have ended up being YouTube or something like that, but we didn't quite navigate it as well as some others. And then one of the first hosting companies, we hosted Yahoo and Netscape and a bunch of others, and so learned a lot about kind of the backbone of the internet. And then launched an early SaaS company before it was called SaaS, software as a service, in 1996. Best friend of mine started as first employee, and so that was another really good ride in Silicon Valley, all through the 90s, and kind of everything you've heard about that is probably true. It's pretty crazy time. And then after the dot-com bust, it was like, what am I going to do, right? Like, I'm a startup guy, and startups weren't really getting funded, and ended up meeting someone who was flipping foreclosures. And actually another friend introduced me and said, you ought to write software for this guy. And I'm like, I'm not going to write software for 40 guys. I call them the 40 thieves in California, right? 40 guys buying foreclosures. I'm like, not writing software for that. I'm going to write software for millions of people. But I met him. He handed me a stack of deals because I was asking him questions like, what's your return on investment? How committed can you keep your capital, right? How much of the time is your capital sitting on a timeline? What's your real return on your capital, IRR, that kind of stuff. He had no idea. He said, but I'm doing well. And he handed me his deals and said, why don't you go figure it out? And I did. And he had like an 80% return on capital. Even when it was sitting in the bank, overall, it worked out to an 80% return. And I went, oh, wow. Right. Like, unless I hit a Google as like, 1 through 10 employees or, early, right? Like, I'm not going to make as much money in tech as I will getting these kinds of returns on the money I'd already made. So I started flipping foreclosures, and that was what got me into it, and had a big aha moment because, in tech, whatever, you're always out looking for customers. You're looking for, your next sale. And in real estate, there's this amazing thing called public records, where like everybody that owns a house is in public records, right? Like you could just go get their name and their address and their information. And it was like, well, this is more like shooting fish in a barrel. And, and then residential, commercial, the rest did really well. Unfortunately, got pretty scared by the market, or fortunately got pretty scared by the market right at the end of 2005. And exited and was back to, well, what am I going to do next?
Nice. Well, I want to jump in right there because I want to know, just like, what did you see in 2005 that led you to stop investing, right? Because so many didn't. And then many people that most would have really looked up to, right? I mean, would have said, you know what, I'm following this guy because he's so smart. But, they were still pushing real estate, at that time.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts and what did you see?
I got to say, all my partners said I was a moron, right? They're like, dude, we got to keep going. This is the best market ever. So there was a few things. There's a few things I saw in the data. There was a few things that I saw anecdotally by just being out in the field. And I think it's really important in real estate to marry those two things, right? You can't just go look at the data and you can just go be in the field. You got to put the two together, and that's where the magic starts to happen. So, sales started to slow, right? And everybody was blaming inventory on that, right? There's not enough inventory. That's why there aren't more sales, right? And that's a reasonable, answer. And in and of itself, if that'd been the only sign, I might have bought that kind of excuse. But prices also weren't, increasing. We're starting to see some, price cuts. And again, not at a very high level, pretty easy still to say, well, those folks just, they got too aggressive in their price. And so they had to bring it back down, right? They got ahead of the market. We see some of that going on right now. We're starting to see some price cuts where, people thought their house was worth $500,000 a year ago, is worth $1 million today. And, are realizing, okay, it's probably still worth $750,000, right? It was a big increase, but it's not that big. So you get some of those signals in the market again. And then anecdotally, or, in the field, we would go by the new home sales offices and talk to their agents, just, hey, what's going on? Like, and we'd bought some stuff from them, like, the early inventory where you buy it and then flip it. So we made a habit of kind of going around and seeing those local new home sales offices. And they went from, in a very short period of time, they went from having a line on every house to one actually got to the point where they were giving away a free swimming pool if you bought a house. That one was particularly concerning because I'm like, every person they've sold to in that subdivision was zero down, right? And not great credit, right? Because this was back in the time when they gave pretty much everybody a loan. And I said, when that person who already doesn't have great credit and didn't put any skin in the game on this house finds out the guy next door got a free pool, he's going to be pissed, right? He's not going to he's going to go, screw it. I'm not paying for this. I didn't get a free pool. Builder's obviously not going to put a pool in for them. They got paid. So I'm like, this doesn't end well. And then the other one that I had anecdotally was, when I bought and flip, even though I'm a broker, I usually list with another broker just for the E&O insurance and kind of separation and the rest. And, and I was doing well enough on my deals. I had enough margin to do that. So But I happened to meet a couple buying one of these houses. And this was in Stockton, California, the epicenter of the foreclosure crisis, according to 60 Minutes.
So this is still 2005, 2006?
This is 2000, end of 2005. End of 2005 is when I made the decision. So probably like November, December of 2005. Okay. And really cute, sweet couple. She was a maid and he worked in the fields, right? Hispanic couple, really nice, just was over the moon that we're buying a house. And, I got curious and I just started asking them some questions, right? Like, when you've made the sale, shut up, right? Like, you're not supposed to try to talk your folks out of buying a deal, but I'm just like, wow, like, it's like $450,000 house. And I'm like, so being a maid must be pretty good. What do you make? Right. And I was asking him and the rest, and I was adding it up and I'm like, they can't afford this house. This doesn't make sense. And I said, so tell me about your loan. And they got qualified on the option payment on a pay option arm. And I went, okay, that's going to work for a very short period of time, but they're never going to have the income to make the regular payment on this loan ever. Like they're just not. And I wasn't okay with that. I'm like, please don't buy this house. You can't afford it. And they're like, but it's our dream, and of course you've got mainstream media and, Ben Bernanke and Lawrence, from National Association of Realtors, everybody else saying, hey, there's no bubble. It's a great time to buy. House prices only go up. Their friends that bought a year earlier made $50,000 because their house value went up. There's no way you're going to talk them out of it. And I just went, I don't want to participate in this. I'm done.
Nice. Well, it's interesting too. I wanted to go back. You said, like things in data, some things in the field, you're putting these things together and it's like, wait a minute, this just doesn't add up. And then this one example, it's just crucial. I mean, we see that often anyway, probably in all parts of cycles of the market or parts of the cycle, where people are able to get loans somehow and knowing really they will never be able to afford it. But a very unfortunate circumstance there where, it's almost like you feel like you're participating in something, that it's not going to work out. Right. And so, you saw some data, you saw things like that happening. And you said, what, I'm done with real estate for now. What was some of the data also? But then what I guess then we'll move forward a few years. But what was some of the data right then you were tracking versus maybe even data now?
So one really important or interesting piece that really played out across 2006 and even 2007 is in that marketplace, the median price continued to go up every month. Because it took me once I made the decision at the end of 2005, it took me about 6 months to sell off the rest of my real estate, right? And I exited. And every month, every week, right, the newspaper is reporting higher median price. So everybody thinks the market's doing well. But I've got a bunch of property kind of at various price points that I'm trying to unload. And I feel it going down across the board, right? And I really couldn't make sense of that. I'm like, how can median price be going up when I know prices kind of at all price points are going down? And that's where I learned about, median price measures two things, right? It measures change in price. It also measures change in mix. So we had a mix shift going on, right? Because median price is where half the homes are more and half the homes are less, right? That's your median. And that's what everybody kind of reports and looks at. Well, what we had happen in kind of 2006 and 2007, right? The subprime lenders got a little scared first and they kind of pulled back and they tightened up. And so the prices started to go down there, right? Because it was harder to get qualified for the homes at kind of the under five in California, the under 500,000. I know that sounds ridiculous to people in other parts of the country, but the under $500,000 level, right? So it was getting harder to sell a home because there weren't the loans there anymore. And so what happened was more of the homes selling were up in the higher end price point, right? Now, the prices up there were going down, the prices down here were going down, but because more high-end homes were selling, because there were still loans available in that marketplace, the median price shifted up. And so for a good 12 to 18 months, if you looked at the newspaper, prices are going up, it's a good time to buy. If you're paying attention to the data at the individual kind of home sale level, or you start breaking that up into quartiles, you see the prices are actually going down across the board. So that was the other really big data takeaway for me during that period of time. And something that I look for now a lot to see if we're getting these false signals saying, hey, prices are going up when they're actually going down, and it's mix shift happening.
Great information.
Down.
Yeah. Right. And it seems like it's an artificial number, right? Or, I mean, it could, depending on where the data is coming from, right?
It's got two things impacting it, right? And everybody only thinks it's a change in price, but it's a change in price and a change in mix. And it's easy to miss that second one because nobody ever talks about it.
Well, there's so much we could talk about. And unfortunately, we got like 25 minutes here, but so I want to jump ahead a little bit. Unfortunately, we could spend a lot of time just right there, no doubt about it. But I know the listeners thinking as well. Well, Sean, well, what about then compared to now? Or like, what are you looking at now? I'd love to have a couple minutes too, just to dive into the public record stuff that you're such an expert in as well. But compare then to now. Tell us what your thoughts are just on the real estate market right now, what you see happening, and I'd love to dive into some of the public record stuff. Like I said, that where you find that data and things we should be watching.
I think the biggest thing comparing 2008 to now, there's two things I'd want to leave your listeners with. One is that lenders and regulators learned a lesson in 2008, which is not to dump inventory. So, pre-2008, and I think the lenders deserve a fair amount of the blame for the foreclosure crisis, but you have to keep in mind that the regulators kind of pre-September 2008 required a lender to get rid of bad assets, non-performing assets as fast as possible, right? So somebody misses a payment, you send them, their late notice, right? 30, 60, 90 day late, right? Then delinquent, notice of default, notice of trustee sale or list pendants, notice of sheriff sale, depending on judicial or foreclosure, right? And then you foreclose, right? And then you put the house on the market and you drop that price to whatever the house market will sell for. That was required by the regulators of banks, right? That is why we saw such a dramatic decline in prices so quickly, because a lot of people stopped making their payments, right? Like the swimming pool example I had earlier. And they went through the process just like they were told to by the regulators, and they put the house on the market and they lowered the price until it sold. And unfortunately, the bottom didn't happen until cash investors woke up and said, whoa, I can get a 15% return on rents. Yes, I'll take every one. And come back to Stockton, right? We went from, at the end of 2005, having probably 2 or 3 months of inventory to having, I think the peak was 16 years of inventory.
Wow.
On the market, right? Like normal number of homes that sell per year, there was 16 years of inventory on the market. And then investors realized what was going on, and we went back to normal inventory in a very short period of time, but at a crazy low price. It was an incredible once in a lifetime buying opportunity. That won't happen this time. They learned that lesson. Well, we see folks not able to survive this, pandemic, even with the stimulus. Well, we see a lot of small business folks get really hurt, even with PPP. Well, we see foreclosures out the other side. Yes. Well, we see a dumping of inventory on the market that creates this amazing opportunity to buy like we saw in 2008. Not a chance. And that's really pains me to say it, because I was the pick and shovel provider through that last one. And, we have the best foreclosure data on the market. And I would love to see another foreclosure wave like that, because it made me and my customers an awful lot of money, and it's not going to happen. And I don't know what else to say.
16 years worth of inventory in at one time. That's hard to even fathom.
It was pretty crazy. Like, yeah, there was just no hope of selling anything on the market, right? In Stockton. So the other takeaway, right, is in 2008, right, we had some stimulus coming out of that to try to rescue it for us, right? This blows that away, right? So the amount of money being injected into this economy to get it back on track, right? So an event like the 2008 foreclosure crisis, very deflationary, COVID, very deflationary. And so the stimulus, right, helps to reflate that and get that back at a level point. We're throwing a lot of stimulus at this one. And that stimulus is going to come out in places we don't expect, right? Like, I don't know if you watch like exotic car auctions, but boy, prices are crazy, right? Art prices are crazy. And, you know, at the end of the day, is that a change in the value of those things, or is that a change in the value of the dollar because we're putting so many dollars into the economy? So, you know, I think it's a good time to own, despite the fact that this feels very bubbly like 2005. When you have this much stimulus going into the economy, it's not a bad time to own real assets versus money in the bank. Although be careful, especially with leverage. Make sure you have, because I think black swans, like COVID, like, you know, the internet was a black swan. These things happen, and you need to be prepared to weather those storms. But those are the two big things. I don't see a big foreclosure crisis, and we got a lot of stimulus going to hit. Really, those two things, if you focus on that as a real estate investor and think about the implications of those, you'll do good.
No, that's awesome. I appreciate you just sharing those things. It's definitely intriguing, especially from all the data that I know you have access to and know about. But I want to jump into that while we just have a few minutes left. We'll probably have to have you back if that's good with you sometime in the future, and we can dive into some more of this. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk through some public record, things that you've focused on that are very important. I want to help the listener right now to really think through the access that they have to public records, right? Or that we all do. I mean, it's called public records, right? But you really don't know a lot of times that you have access to these things. I feel like, or a lot of investors do not. So Sean, help us to think through what we have access to, the most important things we can be looking at as far as public records and things we need to be tracking, things you're looking at on a daily or weekly basis.
Yeah. So the core of it for, that you want to really understand as a real estate investor is, number one, the assessor's office, right? So the assessor's office keeps information on every property so that they can fairly assess what the taxes should be on that property. So bedrooms, bathrooms, square foot, size of the parcel, number of stories, number of rooms, units. It varies the type of property, single family, multifamily, commercial, sometimes it's down to the bowling alley, right? Down to that level. There's 3,142 county or county equivalents in the United States. So there's a lot of these, and there's differences between each one. So, it's a little messy, but it's a huge treasure trove of information. It also has information on who owns the property and where they get their mail. So if you want to reach out to them, right, that information's there as well. So that's the county assessor's office. That's the first one that's important to understand. The next one is the county recorder's office. And that's where all the transactions on the property get recorded, right? So the deed that transfers the property from me to you, the loan from your lender, maybe the HOA restrictions, the CC&Rs from your HOA that say restrict how you can use the property. All of those things get recorded at the county recorder's office, as do in non-judicial states foreclosures and liens and things along those lines. So it's just a treasure trove of information. And between, using that information, you can get a pretty good idea of the sales happening in your area and get a perfect idea. You know exactly every sale happening in your area by looking at the value of those sales. You can run comparables and figure out an estimate of the value of your property, right? So when you think about, comparables or Zillow's estimates, that all uses that county recorder's office to figure that out. Can also look through the loans and see which loans are still there, which ones have been released, and say, oh, there's probably this much debt on the property, and they've had that loan for this many years. And if we assume this interest rate and the rest, we can kind of say this is the likely balance of that loan. And we can get to how much equity is likely on that property, right? So all that's kind of from the county recorder office, just absolute treasure trove. Then we get the
kind of information you don't want the bad guys to have, right?
Well, actually, it's part of what makes the U.S. so incredible, right? Like, so the fact that information is there, right? A lot of people are like, oh my God, privacy, like they can find out what I owe in my house. But the other side of that is that recording of these things publicly helps protect you from getting defrauded. And let's say you want to make somebody a loan and they say, oh, I'm going to make it a mortgage. Well, you can go see whether you're the first mortgage in line or not, right? So public records are there to stop fraud, right? Not allow fraud. But you do need to be aware that information is there in public so that you can protect yourself, because it is possible to have a bad actor try to use that against you. So, but I think it has way more value as an anti-fraud device than as a fraud creator. And then you get the court records, which is like in judicial foreclosure states, the judicial foreclosures, probate, divorce, all that kind of stuff. The GIS department, which goes in and kind of maps out each property and says, here's where the boundary lines are. And we're able to lay those over maps so that you can kind of see, oh, that property backs to a creek and this property actually is surrounded by other properties and whatever. You can just, very easily kind of understand those boundaries and where things lie. So those are the core ones. There's others, like you can go talk to your code enforcement department about code enforcement actions. And, most of this stuff is available. Property taxes on late tax payments that ultimately end in tax sales. And so it's a real treasure trove. If you're in the business of trying to buy properties, or you're in the business of selling things to property owners, public records should be your number one marketing tool, well over, Google and Facebook ads and all those other things, right? Because every potential customer deal is in there with tons of information that'll help you find the right ones and make the right deals.
How much of that do you find is available online versus actually having to go to an office in person?
So historically, right, it varies a lot by county and by department, right? So, LA County, one of the largest county in the United States, right? There is no online lookup tool. You have to go sit in their office at one of their computers, right? Other places like Maricopa County, not only can you do it, online, but you can actually look at the document images, right? So Arizona, Phoenix area. So, it varies a lot across the nation. There are companies like ours that go and gather all that information and put it together, right? So instead of having to go to the assessor's office and then over to the recorder's office, we pull it together into one spot so you can see the assessor, the recorder, the GIS, the court all in one place, and make it easy to search. And
is that nationwide?
Yes. Yeah. So we just launched nationally in November. We were in 5 states just out on the West Coast before that. Started off originally just with foreclosures and then expanded to all properties.
Nice. No, that's interesting. I look forward to learning a little more about that. Unfortunately, Sean, a few final questions, and hopefully, like I said, we can have you back and talk about this again. And, one thing I do like to ask operators, people in this business, but I think from your experience, I'd love to hear your take on this. But I always say, how do you prepare for another downturn? And from what from what you saw, seen in 2005 and compared to now, and knowing what happened over this past year, what do you like to see as far as if you're going to invest with an operator or just anybody that's buying any real estate? How should they be prepared for a potential downturn?
I mean, I think the number one is I always look for investments versus speculation, right? So to the degree that for the deal to work, it depends on future appreciation, future things that you have no control over, right? That's speculation, and there's a place for speculation. The returns can be great, but it is a little different, right? If you're buying a deal today and it's got good income and the process, that area, has a good, strong track record of employment and the rest, right? If it's a good deal today, it'll be a good deal tomorrow, it'll be a good deal next year. It doesn't really even matter what happens to price. Like one of the things I remind people that, 2005, 2006, 2007, a lot of people lost their houses, but a lot of people kept those properties and they're all fine today. And if you're a homeowner and you bought it for yourself and you could afford to live there and you enjoyed the home, did it matter that the price did this? It doesn't. If you're an investor and you bought the property and it met your income returns during that whole price, does it matter that the price did this? It doesn't. So, I think that's the number one. I think number two, to the degree that you're going to use leverage in deals, right? Understand that stuff happens. COVID happens. The inability to evict bad tenants, for an extended period of time, I think it's pretty egregious in this case, can happen. So do you have the cash reserves, right? Or when you're putting in with a deal with other people, are they going to panic at the bottom? Or do they have the cash reserves to the other people in that thing saying, hey, we have patience? Because patience heals all wounds in real estate. The only way you lose money is if you don't have patience or you don't have the financial ability to be patient. As long as you're patient and have the financial ability to be patient, you can't lose money. Well, not can't. There are structural things that happen where, an economy completely changes and wiped out, factory towns, things like that. But for the most part, you can't get hurt.
I love that. You either, I can't probably quote it like you did. I'll have to listen to that again, but you said you either don't have the cash reserves or wait a minute. No, you don't have the ability to be patient or don't have the cash reserves to be patient or financial ability, something like that. That's good. That's really good to think about.
You're just personally not mentally patient, right? Or you don't have the financial ability to be patient.
Yeah. Love that. In thinking through, what you saw in 2005, what do you see over the next 6 months to a year, in our current real estate market?
Yeah, we thought we might start seeing, some of our first COVID foreclosures by now, but of course they've pushed that out now, probably through the end of the year. So I don't think we're going to really see there. We are seeing a trickle through of foreclosures, some commercial foreclosures, some, places, homes where people have walked away from the home, they can move forward with those foreclosures. There's some exceptions. So we're seeing a small trickle, but not a lot there. I expect we're going to still see pretty strong demand, right? We're now finding out in a lot of these areas where people want to be that there's a lack of building. It's going to be really interesting to see how people go back to work, right? So, we're going to start seeing a move back to the office. I live in a resort town. I think our population has doubled over the last year. Do some of those people start migrating back as offices? Are they forced to migrate back? Do they say, screw it, I'm working remote the rest of my life? I think that will be the really interesting thing to watch, is these kind of migratory patterns. We saw such a move, the suburban and rural. Does some of that start moving back to the city? If not, how do these suburban and rural areas, meet the demand with new development, et cetera, and how does that play out? I think we'll start to get some answers to that over the next 6 months, and as vaccinations kick in and life gets hopefully back to normal, and hopefully no variants, it'll be a really interesting period of time to watch and see, people, what they mentally do and where they go.
Yeah. Normal. What is that? Hopefully we see some kind of normal soon. Right. What, Sean, any daily habits that you have that you are disciplined about that have helped you achieve success?
I think a couple, right? I definitely spend a little time just catching up on news and stories. I do kind of check in on some key data points and data sources, so both data points in my own system. I get nightly alerts of things that are happening in the markets that I'm watching. So I'll review those, and then I'll have our favorite news sources, whatever. Just kind of keep an eye on what's going on with various things there. And I think other daily habits, I try, not always very good, but I try to get some sort of daily exercise in is and ideally something like a bike ride that allows me to clear my head as well. And that's
how do we sign up for alerts like that, or can we?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, for sure. Our product does, it now tracks every parcel in the United States. And so I particularly watch listings, sales, even like new loans. I kind of keep an eye on loan activity in a few of the markets or property types that I like. We have 200 criteria. So, it can be anything from a focus on like, I'm the condo king, to horse properties, to, I want to watch storage units, or, whatever it is you want to watch, and whether you want to do it in a tight geography or a large geography. So I watch the subdivision where I live, I'm nosy about that. And then I got a few personal types of things that I'm interested in investing in. And then, I watch there's these handful in the national forest. There's these handful of parcels that are kind of these amazing, incredible parcels that never trade hands. And I watch all, but that are private in the middle of the national forest. And I have this personal, goal to, buy a large piece of acreage in the national forest at some point. So I watch all of those just for any
nice
activity.
No, those would be quite pricey, I'm sure. But what an amazing
they're kind
piece
of in the middle of
land.
nowhere. So yeah, they're not necessarily right. Like it depends. It certainly as you get up against a road or something like that, they get pretty ridiculous. Others are pretty inexpensive, but they rarely change hands.
Wow. Well, Sean, how do you like to give back?
Oh, good question. I do a lot of education and podcasting, that kind of stuff. So that's just sharing knowledge. We've helped a lot of people with our product, and I feel like that's giving back. And then, of course, charitable giving, I think is important. It didn't happen last year. I Survived Real Estate is a friend of mine, Bruce and Aaron Norris event, and they've raised an awful lot of money for charity. And I've been on that panel every year for the last 10 years and, helped with that. So
nice. Well, Sean,
other things, but
yeah, no, that's awesome. And it's a pleasure to meet you, and just the way you've given back today and shared a ton of information, and just incredible to hear just your thoughts, even 2005, because of all the data that you're aware of and tracking, and even up to now, and just helping open our maybe take the blinders off a little bit to all the data that we have access to that we may not have known about. A lot of people know, there's data at the courthouse, or maybe I can go down there and get something, but you don't really exhaust that or think about all the information there. That I know Sean has listed numerous things right now, and there's probably a lot more. And I know the listeners are going to want to check out your software, the tech piece as well, which we didn't get into a whole lot as far as how tech's changing real estate, but it sure is. Tell the listeners though how they can get in touch with you, learn more about you and Property Radar. Yeah.
So my email is Sean@PropertyRadar.com. and SEAN. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Sean O'Toole, Property Radar, pretty easy to find. Property Radar is also on, LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm on Facebook, Twitter. So both the company Property Radar and myself are in all those places. And of course, our website, PropertyRadar.com.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.